The Howl of the Hollow. In the heart of the New Mexico desert, where the stars hung like shattered glass scattered across a velvet sky, stood a small town named Hollow Springs. To outsiders, it was an unremarkable spot, just a collection of adobe houses and dusty roads. To the locals, however, it was a place steeped in legends and whispers of the supernatural, where old tales of skinwalkers sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest hearts. The skinwalkers were said to be witches who could transform into animals, using their power to steal the skin of the creatures they wore. They moved with swiftness and grace, blending into the night like shadows, their eerie howls echoing through the canyons. The townsfolk had raised their children on tales of these fabled beings, warning them not to wander too far from home after dark, lest they become prey to something far worse than their wildest nightmares. Sophie Martinez, a curious 18-year-old with a fearless heart, dismissed the legends as mere stories. Growing up on these tales had only fueled her desire to explore the world beyond what was familiar. This particular summer, she and her best friend Noah decided to investigate the old canyon a few miles outside of town. It was rumored to be a skinwalker's lair. Noah, a practical jokester, teased Sophie about her beliefs, but she was determined to prove him wrong. "Come on," she urged, clutching a flashlight with trembling fingers as they approached the mouth of the canyon. "It'll be fun. Let's show everyone that this skinwalker stuff is just a myth." "Yeah, or we could end up missing," Noah replied, glancing around as if expecting a creature to leap out from the shadows. But he followed her, driven by both curiosity and the need to keep her out of trouble. The canyon walls towered above them, crumbling and ancient, etched with stories long forgotten. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and a sense of unease weighed heavily on them. Each echo of their footsteps seemed amplified, swallowed by the vast emptiness around them. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke through the silence, making Sophie freeze in her tracks. Noah drew closer, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," she whispered, peering into the darkness. "It's probably just a rabbit or something." But the feeling of being watched crept over them. They walked deeper into the canyon, the flashlight beam bouncing off the jagged walls, illuminating the peculiar shapes lurking in the deep crevices. Ever so often, a chill swept past them, making both their hairs stand on end. "Let's just head back," Noah said, nervously glancing over his shoulder, but Sophie pressed on, convinced that the tales were mere fabrications. "Just a bit further," she replied. As night enveloped the canyon, the stars twinkled above like eyes, and they began to hear the distant howls, a mournful sound that resonated through the canyon. Sophie's heart raced. "It's just coyotes," she assured herself, but the fear prickled at her mind. However, Peter, an older boy from town, had shared a story about how skinwalkers could imitate animals. Noah, sensing the shift in atmosphere, turned toward Sophie. "Maybe we should really go now." Before she could respond, a flicker of movement startled them both. From the shadows emerged a shape, a large coyote, its body gaunt and eyes glinting like obsidian. It stood at the mouth of a narrow tunnel leading deeper into the canyon. "Look at the size of that thing," Noah said, caught between fear and awe. "It's almost wrong." Sophie felt a twist in her gut. "Maybe we should," but it happened in a flash. The coyote's posture shifted, its bones twisting with a sickening crack. It let out a low growl that reverberated in their chests. In an instant, it transformed into a tall figure, cloaked in shadow, its skin shimmering with a texture that resembled the fur they had just witnessed. With its eyes locked onto Sophie, the figure smiled, a grin that twisted and elongated across a face contorted by malice. A piercing howl erupted from its mouth, sending a wave of paralyzing fear crashing over them. "Noah, run!" Sophie screamed, her voice barely rising above the howl. They turned and sprinted back through the canyon, the screams of the skinwalker chasing them like a gust of wind at their backs. The shadows danced around them as they tore through the darkness, each echoing step urging them forward. As they reached the canyon's mouth, Sophie glanced back, and for a brief moment, she could see the skinwalker standing at the entrance. It tilted its head, its eyes gleaming with satisfaction as if savoring the ordeal. The creature howled once more, an unearthly sound that reverberated throughout the canyon, sending shivers down her spine. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of Hollow Springs, gasping for air and trembling. The lessons of generations washed over them like a tidal wave. The legends were real. They had come face to face with the horror prowling under the guise of myth. From that night on, Sophie and Noah never doubted the stories again. The canyon, once a place of exploration and thrill, became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows, waiting for the next curious soul to venture into the dark. And deep within the canyon, the Skinwalker waited, howling at the moon, hunting for those who strayed too far from the safety of home.